So mantras are purest forms of sound. When you use them at the right time, in the right conditions, under right circumstances, they can go way beyond psychological impact or a placebo. A lot more. They're sounds. Everybody is so tied to sounds. I've always said this, and many times I've said this before. The way you're addressed, it's a sound coming from somebody's mouth. It can make you feel good or bad. The way you're reciprocated. You make a cake for somebody out of love, and they say, wow, I'm so deeply touched. Thank you for this amazing cake, this gesture. And just sound. They have not given you any money. They have not given you a cake in return. They may not even have eaten it. They just produced some sound that really made you feel warm inside. If they'd said, you know I'm diabetic, I don't eat this stuff, you know. In the first case they didn't eat, in the second case they're not eating, but second case will make you feel really bad. So as long as you are linked to sounds, there is so much you can do with sounds. There was a research scientist in France. He used to work on the top floor of a building. This is a real story. And he felt these incredible headaches. And he tried all kinds of medication. He just could not figure out, why am I so headachy? Nothing worked. One day, just for some fresh air, he thought of resigning from his job and finishing that and going, maybe taking a break. He went on the rooftop. Across the roof, across his building, he saw another building on the rooftop. It had an air conditioning plant. The size of it and the structure of it matched with his room size and the structure of his own lab. And there was a constant vibration coming. That gave him the headache. So he thought, if sound can give me headache without me even knowing it, it's not placebo, right? He does not know this. Then I'm sure there must be more to it. I should be able to do more with sounds. So he went out in search of a device where he could produce different frequencies of sounds, one after the other. This happened, I think, in 1970s. And he discovered that the police, the whistle they used to carry, produced sound at different frequencies. So he took that model, came back to his lab, and he got a 6-meter long whistle made. So it was 6 feet long, 2 meters, 2 meters, almost 6 feet, 1.8. A whistle made, put a compressor underneath, and he decided to blow it using that air. And he got a technician to press the switch so he could observe. The technician pressed the switch and dropped dead right that moment. They were clearly at their wits' end. What just happened? Did this guy have a heart attack or brain hemorrhage? What happened? This guy is dead. So clearly the body went for postmortem, went for an autopsy. And they discovered all his organs in his body had gone jelly. All of them. Jelly. By just playing a sound for a few seconds. So, in the science of sounds, the science of mantra, which is my specialization for the record, I've experimented for 22 years with mantras. There are sonic secrets. But the way the world knows to chant them, they are no more than listening to a song on television. It's like a pauper coming up to you, say, I'll give you the 10 grand tomorrow, don't worry. And you'll say, yeah, right. So you need to know how to use the sounds. So I have my basis of believing in mantras is because for me it's not a question of belief. It's a question of experimentation. You experiment and you find out. And that is why it is not just psychological. If a pauper came up to you, a beggar, and said in the most profound way, I will give you $10,000 tomorrow, will you believe him? It's not about pronunciation. I mean, I know between North and South and East and West India, they can't even come to an agreement of how to pronounce the anuswar, the dot. Some say it's some say it's some say it's We just don't know how to go about it. But do you know the real way of pronouncing it? Let me disclose it to you. So you have to see the vern for ka, ka, ga, 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 na, cha, cha, ja, ja. For that, the sound will change of the anuswar. It's just a nasal sound. It should not end in ma. If it were to end in ma, why would they not put a ma? It is just to take the sound to your nose. You know, if you speak little, using your nostrils a little, it is hypnotic. The greatest speakers, if you examine their speeches, they had this nasal tone to their speech. It was not all coming from throats. The sound you produce from the throat is the most shallow sound. Deeper sounds come from deeper. And so it is not about pronunciation, it is about from where do you origin the sounds of that mantra. We were at a retreat and there we did that sounds for the chakras, didn't we? Yeah. So they are placed differently. And if you just say them right, you will feel them coming from there. So a mantra has 6 aspects. Rishi, Bij, Chand, Devta, Shakti, Kilak. It can have 92 types of different doshas. It has 10 sanskaras. For example, if you just took a book and you read a mantra from the book, even though you know the 6 aspects, it's got a dosh called Garvit. That mantra will not really give you the impact. You have to make the mantra your own, and it is a long and an arduous process. Not easy. But results are remarkable. Starting from material wealth to spiritual heights, you can do anything with sounds. Anything. And then you ascertain the relationship of the mantra with the sadhak. Sometimes you owe the deity of the mantra. Rindhani chakra it's called. If you owe to the mantra, first you have to clear off that debt before you will see any result. then we have to see if the deity of the mantra based on any sanskaras is not in favor of the sadhak. It's called akadam chakra. Akadama. There's a chakra you draw, you place certain letters on it to figure out. Where do you sit to chant the mantra? You draw a kurma chakra there. That makes a difference. For example, if today we were meditating, there were other noises in the room, clearly your meditation was getting obstructed. So where you are sitting to chant your mantra does make a difference. There are some mantras you have to go to the cremation grounds to do them. In fact, let me tell you, there are only 4 places for mantra siddhi if you are serious about it. Cave, woods, cremation ground, and seashore. I don't know of anybody who got mantra siddhi sitting at home. I never got it. I tried all sorts of places. But when I went to the right places, did the right things, then it doesn't take time. But it does require extraordinary concentration. It is not just about sitting there and chanting. That won't do a thing. Tetam bhuktva sargalokam vishalam kshine punne mritulokam vishanti. Evam tari dharma manu parvanne gata gatam na kama kam labhante. Krishna says when people have had enough of good stuff in the heaven, they come down on planet Earth to suffer basically. So I don't know if just chanting the mantra gives somebody more years in heaven. That's what I'm saying. But I do know it does not alleviate your suffering on earth. You have to know the science behind it. If you put something in microwave, it's no longer about whether you believe in it or not. You will see the thing warmed up, you will say, well, something's happened. So, if you look at the concept of a deity, every mantra has a deity except the purest pranav sound Om, which is the primordial sound. So, the visual aspect of a deity is its yantra, the energy field, the geometrical drawing. This sound, the verbal aspect is mantra. And the application is tantra. Some apparatus needs. There was a scientist. He used to sit by this river every morning and every evening. And he saw that there was a fisherman who would come there every day, spread his nets, catch some fish, go home. And this scientist thought there must be some greater purpose to this water. There must be something else to it. And he asked the fisherman, do you have any idea what else could you do with water? He said, of course. You can use it for cleaning, you use it for cooking, you use it for bathing. He said, I'm not talking about those. I'm sure there must be some other element to water. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. For the last 7 generations, all I have known is my folks have spread a net, caught fish and gone home. And he sat there and he thought, this looks incomplete. This feels incomplete. There has to be something else to it. And he sat and examined. He thought, this water has kinetic energy. when it's moving. I'm sure I could use it somehow. He saw when you throw water from a height that there was force and movement. And then he put a turbine. And when water fell on the turbine, through some paraphernalia, it produced sparks. It produced what can never live in water. So similarly, our seers, our sages, understood that there must be more to sound than just conversations. That there are energy centers in our body, that if we were to apply the right sound with the right force, they will make a difference. They will expose that human being to a new dimension. And that is, briefly, without just scraping the surface, the reasoning, the rationale behind mantras.